The rotor assembly is probably the easiest part in building a permanent magnet axial flux alternator. However, there are a few procedures in doing this that might be a little tricky or even hazardous, and we're going to try and cover some of those details in this video. We also have additional comments and suggestions in the tutorial section on our website, so feel free to visit there for that information. So let's get started.
The rotor assembly of an axial flux alternator should be based on two steel discs with magnets. The steel discs capture magnetic flux that would normally be unused and concentrates it in the field between two opposite magnetic poles. The magnets are arranged in a north-south, north-south pattern around the circumference of the discs. When the discs are assembled, opposite poles face each other. This structure manipulates the magnetic field to direct the maximum amount of energy through the coils of the stator. Our 9-inch rotor kits include two steel discs with an aluminum spacer. We machine the spacers on state-of-the-art CNC machinery. The discs are precisely laser cut. They have indicator notches every 30 degrees on the circumference to be used as an alignment guide when setting the magnets. On a clean workbench, gather the needed shop supplies such as safety glasses, acetone, a degreaser, rags, epoxy, and so on. Clean the discs to remove any dirt and oil from the surface. Wear gloves so that the oils from your hands won't transfer to the disc. Follow the instructions provided with the epoxy for surface prep procedures. Using the notches as guides, draw layout lines on the discs. These will be used for aligning the magnets. The magnets will also need to be degreased before they are glued in place. Due to the high strength of the magnets, it is best to bring them into contact with the disc edge before setting the magnet on the disc surface. We recommend you practice this several times before actually using the epoxy. Mix the epoxy according to the manufacturer's instructions and pay attention to the working time allowed. There are many suitable epoxies for this application. Refer to our website for more details and recommendations. Apply a thin film of epoxy to the disc and set a magnet in place. The magnet should be centered on the layout line. Once the magnets are set in the epoxy, they'll float around for a minute or two. When enough epoxy is squeezed out, they will remain in place. When setting the next magnet, it is important to set it with the opposite pole facing up in order to achieve the north-south, north-south pattern. Find the face that repels the previous magnet to determine which face should be down. The face that repels the previous magnet should be glued to the disc. Continue with this procedure to set all of the magnets on both discs. When starting on the second disc, it doesn't matter if you start with a north pole or a south pole, just as long as you achieve the north-south, north-south pattern when finished. You should clean up excess epoxy with acetone. Then follow the epoxy manufacturer's instructions to allow the adhesive to cure to its full strength. Bolt the center spacer in place with the hardware provided. Our Tri-Star bearing carrier comes with the rotating assembly kits and can also be purchased separately. It is pre-machined to bolt directly to the rotor assembly. The Tri-Star plate is also designed for mounting a flange bearing, spokes, or blades. If you use this component, bolt it to the rotor assembly at this point. Place the stator over the spacer. Stack several wood blocks to support the second rotor when it's lowered into position. Never put your finger under the opposing rotors, as this may cause injury. You can use a magnet, for example, to keep your finger from being pinched. Look to see if the bolt holes line up. If not, rotate the rotor until they do. The unique design of the rotor bolt pattern assures that it will line up as long as the magnets are in the north-south, north-south pattern. Use more wood blocks to support the upper rotor as you carefully lower it into position by removing other blocks. As the rotors get closer to each other, their attractive force increases and they will become very difficult to pull apart. Never allow them to come together without a spacer in between. Loosely install the bolts and continue to carefully lower the upper rotor by removing blocks. Once in place, tighten the bolts.
With the stator in place, this alternator is complete and ready to make electricity. In another video, we're going to go back into the shop and mount this in a test fixture where we can study some of its performance. In the meantime, we hope that this video has been helpful, and as always, we thank you for watching.